Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Resilient Voices podcast. Today, we have Anila Ali, who is the biggest advocate right now in the world, trying to end hate and try to make sure that everybody can get along, can coexist, can be humans and build a humanity together that's functioning and loving and building communities around the world, regardless of religious affiliation, where you live, what you believe, what your orientation is. It doesn't make a difference. And Anila is leading the charge for that. So today we're going to go over the current situation, what's going on in Israel. Before we get started, we want to be so happy that today they were able to recover a Muslim Israeli hostage. And Anila's right there. She actually did an event for the family. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how we can coexist together, and not just coexist, but also thrive together as humans. Anila, we're really excited for you to come on the podcast. I've seen you speak so many times, and I just want to thank you so much for coming on and to give our listeners this amazing treat. Anila, can you give us a few minutes of your background, and then I have a bunch of questions for you.
Thank you so much for having me. And yes, I was woken up this morning by the good news that one of our friends who's Druze Muslim, his father was released this morning, and we had held an event in Los Angeles at a very, very difficult time where we thought we're just not going to get any Muslims to come and support. We had 30 Muslims. That's a lot of Muslims in LA at that time to come and support his family. And so we are delighted to hear that he is okay. And with that, we think more of the ones who are not, who are still in captivity by, evil Hamas terrorists. And so let's not forget them in the joy that we are feeling.
Can you give us your background and how you got to this position? Because it is a very unique position.
Yes. Well, I guess I'm here because I felt that there was no male leader who was representing the Islamic values that I grew up with. I've been doing a lot of fighting hate, fighting extremism since 9/11 because I moved to America to be that Muslim who lives like a Muslim, speaks like a Muslim, and doesn't necessarily have to be a jihadi Muslim to be that kind of a Muslim. I wanted my kids to grow up to just like play baseball, be just like American kids. And my son started going to UCLA, and he would call me and say, Mom, what am I hearing at the mosque? I don't like it. I don't like the khutbah. I don't like the sermons. And I would say, okay, don't listen to the why. And he would say, Mom, they're talking about I like America. And, all they talk about is Israel, Israel. Now, you have to understand, we come from Pakistan. And when I came to America, my father had said, the Ahle Kitab, the Jewish people are your best allies, and work with them. And I never grew up with hate for the Jewish people, or for that matter, for the Christians. I was always raised with stories of the Prophet by my grandmother, who was a leader. I come from Pakistan, where Benazir Bhutto, she was an amazing woman leader. So I'm used to women leadership. I'm used to leadership coming from interfaith leaders. And, Pakistan was a bastion for religious freedom. That's how we were founded. Pakistan in 47, Israel in 48. And this is what we came out of. We wanted to live our lives and be free to practice our religion. And all of a sudden, after 9/11, I felt that all those dreams that I had of being an American, or just like a plain American, were being taken away from me by this radical voice that was rising in America, that was rising in the UK, as we've seen right now. And it was going to take away my dream from my children of being Americans as well, because at some point I knew that we would all become victims of the Islamophobia that these Islamic extremists are spewing, the hatred they're spewing for the Jewish people, the hatred they're spewing for Israel, and not a word about the Uyghurs, not a word about the Rohingyas. Their whole agenda was to delegitimize Israel, and that wasn't the agenda of the South Asians. I didn't grow up to believe that. I I took that on, and I said, I'm going to create a world in America for Muslims where our children will thrive with the Jewish children and with the Christians and everybody else. But I didn't know that that was going to be really hard. So yeah, we got blasted, but we were the Muslim women civil rights movement that started in 2011, and we said we want a world, an America, where Muslims fight anti-Semitism and Jews fight Islamophobia, and together we fight hate. We did really well until recently when I saw the shift. I saw the shift in the complete breakdown of relations between Muslims and Jews when Representative Ilhan Omar was elected, and she started spewing hatred for the Jewish people and brought out like this anti-Semitism that has probably existed in the Muslim world for thousands of years.
Well, two questions before we get more into the detail. Aren't you scared for your life? Isn't that something that obviously people have addressed to you? That isn't this something you are speaking against a huge sea of anti-Semitism, and you're speaking probably for the vast majority of people, for a vast majority of Muslim Americans who feel that they want to fight against anti-Semitism and they want people to fight for them and build this community and work together as partners. And that's really what we are in this world. Humans are just partners with each other. And religion came later. We started off as humans and then religion came later. And all of a sudden we view it as, we use religion to hate each other. It just doesn't really make sense. Aren't you scared for your life? Has there been threats? Has there been something that you've been nervous about?
There are many fatwas, and I believe the fatwas are there on my life because I'm heard. People like what I'm saying. They know that the Islam that I'm saying is the Islam of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, that he was an interfaith leader. And if we look at his life, yeah, he never hated. He returned hate with love. And today, everyone sees Islam as this violent religion. And when people talk to me, they say, you're such a good person. Leave Islam because Islam is a violent religion. Do I want people to say that to me? No, that is not why I came to America. I came to America to be that role model Muslim who loves America and loves everybody else. That has changed for all of us. And even though the Iranian regime, Hamas, Hezbollah, Taliban, TTP, they all have fatwas on me, I realized that there is no man in America who will stand up to speak the truth and bring communities together, which is what Islam is all about. We're stemming from the Abrahamic faiths. The Judaism is fundamental to our beliefs. We can eat kosher. Our men can marry Jews and Christians, and our mosques are spewing hatred for Jewish people because of a political conflict thousands of miles away. They are bringing it into our campuses, into the lives of our children. My intern, who's 19 years old, she sent me the most violent messages. She has never been to Pakistan. She has never been to Israel. She's never been anywhere outside of the US. From Johns Hopkins, she sends me a message saying, "You will go to hell for supporting the Zionists, and I leave your organization. These are the verses from the Quran." And I reported that website because it was the talking points of Hamas. It was the talking points of all the people who hate others and the extremists and this Islamists. And I couldn't believe that this girl is going to be a physician in America. I wouldn't trust her. How can anyone else?
No,
Well, I know for us,
very dangerous.
from the Jewish point of view, this is what we want. We want to live in peace with all our Muslim brothers, and especially the one that was rescued. I mean, that's a victory for us as well. I mean, we feel pride in the fact that he was also rescued. But like Yair was saying, it's like scary. I saw something on LinkedIn. Someone was in Gaza and saying how much they hated they hated Hamas and how they were taking all the food, etc. And he had his child and wife and back, and then the next day I saw that he was killed and left on the side. So it's like you're saying, it's a dangerous position for you, especially.
Yes, it is, David. But I feel that if there is no man who will do this, then there will be women. We are mothers. I'm not alone. I have my Muslim women speakers. I have my Muslim women board. We also have now a following of men. You'll be happy to hear that there are men in mosque, imams, who are quietly calling us and saying, "Sister, we are with you." And I met this Bosnian imam the other day in New York, at Columbia. And, I said, let me, I went up to him and I looked him in the eye and I said, brother, tell me, you're an imam, you're a Muslim. Tell me that raising your sword and calling your mother and saying, Allahu Akbar, I killed 10 Jews, is that Islam? And, he looked at me and said, but no. And then he turned his face and he said, but how do we do the fundraising?
It's hard. That's true. So why is it that maybe it's all sources down to money. Before this question, sorry. What about the fear that your sons and children will be indoctrinated into the American culture if you do not speak, we hate America and we hate Israel? Like, what about the fear of assimilation between your Muslim son who could potentially marry a Christian girl or an atheist or a Hindu or whoever? Like, is there a fear when you came to America for that? Because I know in my wife's family, who's Persian, all Persian Jewish, they had a big fear of marrying outside the Persian community.
Yeah, you're right. In the beginning when I came here, of course, my exposure to Americans, to a lot of the new people and new religions that I meet here, Baha'is and Hindus, a lot of Hindus I met here,
Of course.
And many other religions, even the Wiccans. I've met the Wiccans here who are my friend, and I have many atheist friends. I have many gay friends. I have them in Pakistan as well. When I met them, I'd come with all these preconceived ideas that Islam says this about them, and all of the things that we hear, that only Muslims that follow this certain version of Islam will go to heaven. Everybody else is going to hell. But I knew better because I grew up with my grandmother, who was a literary figure. She wrote books on Islam. So did my father. And she would sit and tell me the stories of the prophets. And those stories were all about humanity, sometimes feeding the wayfarer, sometimes giving water or helping a traveler who's new to your town, your neighbor, doesn't matter if they're Muslims or not, or whoever they are. They should not be sleeping hungry and, picking up the litter. If you see in front of it, leaving the bathroom better than you found it, caring for the elderly and the invalid, being kind to children. Those were the values, and they were the same values that I was being taught in the Catholic school that I went to by my nuns, and they were the same values shared by Judaism. That was like the beginning of monotheism. And here we are coming to America, the place where, everyone can be free, and going to a mosque, and for my son to hear that they are going to hell and only we are going to heaven. My son also rebelled and he started just going to the mosque. But imagine the young people that many I know and I have counseled, who went to these mosques, whose parents were not that educated and enlightened, didn't know what Islam was about. They had barely gone to the mosque, but when they did go to the community centers in America, they heard hatred for Jews. You can't be friends with Jews and Christians. They can never be your friends. I was also told by the leaders of Muslim civil rights organizations that I cannot be friends with Jews and Christians. So I said, well, then I should not be living here. I should go somewhere else. I should go and do hijrah like the Prophet of Islam. But listen, where did the Prophet of Islam go? When did Islam, the calendar, begin? It began when he went to Medina. He went to Yathrib, where all the Jews were. And you can't deny that. The first time he was persecuted, he sent people to a Christian king, an Assyrian king, Najashi. And you're telling me in America that I should be hating these people. Then maybe we should not be living here. We should do that. Emigrate to another Muslim country, maybe go to Yemen and see what life is like, maybe go to Iran and see what life is like for us. I certainly wasn't going back to Pakistan. I had chosen this country. So I had to make sure as a mother that I am speaking up. My father taught me, if there's no leader, you are the leader. My grandmother taught me, if there is no leader, Anila, you lead. If you're leading for the benefit of humanity and for your people as Muslims, then do it. And I knew when I stood up against these organizations that they're going to take me down. The good thing was at that time, my family was also suffering. We are moderate Muslims and we were feeling squeezed. We didn't feel like we belonged in any of the mosques. And every time there was a moderate imam coming to our Irvine mosque, they would find some allegation of sexual abuse against him and throw him out. One of the ones we loved him. They threw him, they attacked him, they found allegations, and they told him to leave America and go back to Sudan. And he was gone
Wow.
in 3 days.
Wow.
That's what was happening to all the imams, and that's still what's happening. And when we told law enforcement and we challenged them as the Muslim civil rights, women civil rights movement, mothers against Islamic extremism, um, it went on deaf ears, because apparently, from what I have seen for the past 15 years, our Homeland Security, our many of our law enforcement agencies, many of our Democratic Party leaders, they're also pro-Islamism. They're pro-Muslim Brotherhood. You go to talk to them and you say, hey, brother, don't say anything bad about me. Don't say I'm too close to the Muslims and Jews, and so you can't trust me, to the Christians and Jews. That's how we have to live in America. If you can't say anything good about me, please don't say anything bad about me. They would still send text messages to people and say, Sister Anila, or anyone who was associated with me was, they're too close to the Christians and Jews. I stood up to them. Whenever they were at mosques, I spoke. I actually attacked them on Facebook. And I would say, please, brother, don't come to the mosque. Let me know. I won't come to the mosque if you're going to spew hatred for Israel and for America. It was always together. It was always together.
It's fully counterproductive. If you want to develop and grow peace and grow your society, spewing hate, which is very popular, limits everybody and holds everybody down. But what it does is it's like a bully. A bully will gather followers, and it's like cheating. You're gathering followers by saying, if you join me, then we're going to hate against these people. It's the same thing with the KKK. KKK came into the US and they were just like, well, all these immigrants are coming in, join the KKK, and they had 4 million followers at a time. Join the KKK, and we're gonna fight against them. It's using that age-old hatred to grow your actual stature.
It's just very perplexing, because you see some of these Muslims and, they're saying burn the American flag and America is horrible. So leave, go back to Sudan, go back to Pakistan, go back to Iran. They just came out now with the LGBTQ or whatever plus, and if those people were in Iran, they would be killed. And they just came out. I saw some. They came out and said, yeah, if you would here, you wouldn't exist.
Yes.
It's like you don't like it here, leave. It's fine. Leave it for Anila that likes to be here and wants to be here. We want to be here. We want to build a life of peace and quiet, and we're based on the correct values and morals, and leave us alone.
Exactly. And what we have to understand is that, I'll tell you, imagine the scene. There are 3 Muslim women and a man who is protecting us. We're standing in front of the protest, the pro-Hamas and pro-Palestine protest that was going. There are 3,000 people going, majority Palestinians. And this was in Chicago recently at the Dem convention. We just stood there with the police because we knew we'd be attacked. And we started shouting, save Gaza from Hamas. And then we said, save America from Hamas, because we've seen all these things. We think that this is what's happening, that people are absorbing the mindset of Hamas and living in America with these values. They're going to ruin life for us as Muslims, like you said, David. And you can't imagine a family, a handsome Palestinian with his wife and a child. They turned to us and he pointed at me and he said, I curse you and I pray that you see, he pointed to the gentleman who was standing next to me and he said, I hope that you see him die.
Wow.
And I thought, that little child with him, right? He's going to raise him to be a jihadi hater and only think about death. What has happened to my people? Only death is what they think about, instead of thinking about life that Allah has given us. Allah has given us life and He holds human rights. It's called hukukul ibad, more important than Allah's rights. So don't pray, but be kind to your neighbor. Don't curse this woman and give her bad curses and prayers because she has a different point of view. She's saying save her country from extremist terrorists who are not even Muslims. And you, as an American, you stand there, you're probably working for Intel or something, and you're cursing us. And there was this American policewoman, Chicago policewoman. She saw us standing there and she saw the spitting that was going on at us. She saw the curses that were coming at us and how this mob suddenly got disrupted by peace and the truth. And they were just angry. They said, "You're not a Muslim." And I said, "Yeah, that's what you say to people who differ from your point of view." So you shut down our voices, but we will not be shut down. And that's the strength I have. That child with that couple, my children, my granddaughter, that's my strength. My grandmother taught me
You're
stories
saving.
of prophets. She told me Allah's forgiving and this world is for all of us. And today, they're telling us that this world is only for people who follow a certain version of Islam. Today, it's Hamas. Tomorrow, it will be the Iranian version of Islam. No. And for me, this battle is, yes, it's there for my Abrahamic family, the Jews and the Christians, for Israel, my friends, but it is also for the Muslim Ummah because we don't have leadership. We don't have any male leader in America who will stand up and say, this is wrong. We're looking for that man.
But that's because they're scared.
I'm
Well,
scared
they've been,
too.
But they
I'm
don't
scared
have
too.
the courage to stand up like you do.
That's it.
And they're worried. It sounds like they're also worried about the finances.
Yes. And I also think that, we don't have enough role models. I've been saying this for 15 years, that you, as American government, must uplift the moderate Muslim voices. You would have had many more Anilas. You would have had many more imams coming forward if you had completely, shunned and ostracized the extremist voices. Not that American government did not know who they were. They knew.
no, they know. They knew exactly.
They knew, but they gave them the podium. They invited them to the White House. When you can invite 300 Islamists, majority of the people at the White House were ex-government employees with the Obama administration standing there, and a lot of them are extremists. And I'm looking and saying, Linda Sarsour is standing with me. Hey, I love America. And you're here at my White House. You hate my country, and you're here. What has gone wrong? Obviously, there are many, many mistakes we've made. We have not been watching our allies. They are not our allies. We have not screened them. We have not vet them, and we need to do that as whatever community we are, Christian, Jewish.
Yeah.
Who are the people you're working with, and are they really saying they are pro LGBTQ? Then behind the LGBTQ, they would say, oh, they will take us to the hell. The LGBTQ is haram. It's homosexuality is haram. And we as Muslim women came out and said, listen, there are our children who are gay. There are our Muslims who are gay. We helped the first LGBTQ Muslim. Today, he emailed me a while ago and he said, for 23 years, I couldn't tell my family I'm gay. And you brought us out. And because we stood with justice, Allah is the judge. We are not. And
Yeah,
don't.
you're stopping. You're preventing suicide. You're preventing real damage for people.
Yes.
What is the solution to change the indoctrination? What is yours? Obviously, you're promoting peace, but what is the solution to change indoctrination in the Muslim community here and in the Middle East? What is the actual solution to fixing this problem of jihadic mentality?
The solution is education, right? But in America, we have education. We have our elite institutions that have become poisoned with hate. But I say to everyone, our allies, please do not uplift and elevate the voices of extremist Muslims. There are many of them. They are the wolves in sheep's clothing. Do not elevate them because by doing that, you have silenced so many Muslim women like me who came forward, and these men with a beard claiming to be the bastion or the leaders of the Islamic Ummah in America. What did they do? They spewed hate for America. They spewed hate for Israel, our allies. They spewed hate for moderate Islam. They spewed hate for now the Arab moderate brothers. They don't like Saudi Arabia for the way it's modernizing its country. They don't like UAE. And these organizations are banned. These individuals cannot go to these great Muslim countries, yet they are allowed to freely infiltrate our government, our educational institutions, and they have brainwashed the liberals. There's a war here in America between liberalism and non-liberalism, and I hope that liberals, the real liberals, win, because right now it is so dangerous for me as a moderate Muslim to send my child to NYU and to know that they're going to not come out hating Jews and the white people and the British and everybody else and the Christians and anyone who does not subscribe to their ideology. Young people are not even listening to us. They shut you down because they've been brainwashed. I spoke to ladies at Code Pink and I said, listen, when you had gone to Afghanistan to meet the Taliban and you were supporting them. And I said, do you understand that Taliban are going against Islam? Islam came to liberate women, stop femicide, and you are going to them and you're saying here you're feminist? And they said, no. When did they do that? When did they do that? And I said, you don't even know what you're standing for, who your leader is? And I said, go and ask your Mahdia, ask her why she went to the Taliban. And if she really wants to do something for women and Islam, then she should actually fight for women and their right to get an education in Afghanistan.
Yeah, if they really are pro, then where is your action behind it? And I thought an incredible point that you just said is that there's people who are banned to go into Saudi Arabia and the UAE, but they are going to our White House. So it's like it's like we have rats in the kitchen that are internally through us.
Yeah.
Is your organization and the moderate Muslims and the larger Muslim at a whole, are they more powerful to overturn this? What is the actual stages that need to take place in order to get these people out, instead of saying, let's just not give them voices, because they're getting voices. We're already very deep into this.
Because it sounds like right now the education that we're trying to give to the young people, to the university, is being drowned out. I mean, it seems like we don't even have a chance. And whatever happens in November, I think that's going to play a large part in how we see this country going forward.
Yeah, I mean, whatever happens, when it comes to elections, it's going to happen. But our problem is more serious than that. This is about our national security. This is about the future of our children and your children. I mean, I have young Jewish interns who were with me and saying, we don't like Israel. Anila, why do you like Israel? And I said, it's not a question of liking or hating or whatever. It's a question of what is right. And I said, what is right is peace. If you want Palestinians to have peace, you're going to have to tell Palestinians to not sell their children to Hamas. I have seen the posters that say 15,000 for a child, send your child to heaven and go to heaven yourself. And I said, that's not Islam. I want to give Palestinian children books. I cannot give them bombs. And I cannot support that kind of ideology. The only way we can help Palestinians, like the Arabs are doing from UAE, is by telling them life is precious. Sit down with your neighbors. They are here to stay, make peace. And anyone who is saying anything other than that, like they say, river to sea, I said, you're calling for a perpetual killing of the Palestinian, because no one in the end likes terrorism.
Can I just clarify one thing that you mentioned, Anila, that they're actually this is the first time I've heard this so specifically, that they're offering $15,000 to send their child as a terrorist. What is that?
So not as a terrorist, for jihad. And when I went to Jenin for the first time, I've been doing Muslim-Jewish reconciliation on campuses in America with Homeland Security, with FBI, with all law enforcement agencies for many years. And so before, I would be attacked and you don't know what the truth is. I went to Jenin. That is supposed to be the worst camp in the entire world. And I went there with my colleagues and I said, where is the camp? And they said, this is the camp. The camp is a city. It's a town. It's in many ways much better than the towns in Pakistan and Bangladesh. It is a fully, functional town. There are cars, there are homes that the Palestinians own. And yes, they are cordoned off because they want to kill their neighbors. Obviously, I understand that. But they are living. And then there are Jewish neighbors of theirs who come and teach their children art, music, drama. And when I saw all of that, and I was not supposed to take any videos, but I was taking a video. My phone was
You're a
up.
tough woman. I would not expect you to not take videos.
Yeah, so I
Be
took
surprising.
videos and I said, when I looked at that poster, it was 15,000 and a child's picture was there and said, give your child for jihad. It was a no-brainer. I told myself, I have to stop this. I cannot go back and not tell people that the camp is a mental camp. They have to get out of that victimhood camp that they are in. They have to understand that if they're going to live right next to the neighbors who have a right to exist, they're going to have to acknowledge it. And they're going to have to say, our children have the right to live. You can't do that to your children. My own country, Pakistan, you saw there were attacks, Hamas style attacks, just in Balochistan. There are women that are gang raped. And now they will look at Hamas and say, not only can we gang rape women, we can insert things into their private parts and we can cut their body parts. This is very dangerous for every Muslim in the world, that they are seeing these role models coming out of Gaza, and they are going to treat us and non-Muslims as badly. And I fear that. I fear that for the Muslim world. And I know that my Arab brethren who are working towards this are also de-radicalizing. But we have to stop it in our country here in America. We can stop it by making sure that we question our allies. We question and we ask straightforward, do you support the jihadi Islam? What kind of Islam do you follow? And do you believe America and Israel have a right to exist? Because in the end, if they come for Israel, they're going to come for America. They don't like our values. Israel
I
is
think
just
they're already coming for America. I think that's
they
already
are here in
happening.
America.
So let me just ask one more question. The $15,000, what does that mean? They give the money to the family and the family hands over the child and they take them away somewhere and they could whatever.
They teach them to be jihadis and suicide bombers.
But they're living somewhere else now. They're taking them from their family, or they're still
staying with
them. They take
them
for
the family, and then they take them to these jihadi camps and they train them to be jihadi suicide bombers. We've seen tons of those in Pakistan, Taliban, Afghanistan. And now we are left in Pakistan. There was no suicide bombing. It came from the Palestinians. And now we are a victim of this jihadi suicide bombing. Who do they kill? They kill Pakistani military. They kill Pakistani policemen who are poor. They have 10 kids and they have no breadwinner, and they kill them. And I'm very opposed to all of that.
You're pro being alive and pro being part of your children. Like everything speaks against it. And that's what Islam was originally about. It was originally about educating people and giving people life and giving people different set of ways of thinking in what normally would be a poorer region, and creating prosperity and creating communities. That's really what the foundation of Islam is all about.
Yes, and how can you give away your child's life when the first right that Allah wants us to fulfill is the right of the human body, humanity, human body. Allah doesn't want us to kill ourselves. Allah doesn't want us to hurt our bodies. And prayers come last. Allah says, my rights are last. It's humanity and it's the human body. It's sacred. Don't give it away. Life is so sacred. And why aren't we cherishing it and saying our life is important? We want the same life that kids have in America. I came here for my children's life to be better, for them to have education, and for them to enjoy this world and look at the little things in life and be happy with them. And alhamdulillah, I have been able to do that. But will my Nora, my granddaughter, will she be able to go to a UCLA or UC Berkeley that is devoid of hate, that does not have these organizations, the Muslim Students Associations, that are promoting this kind of narrative on Islam, that it's my way or no way. There is a zero-sum game. The Jews are the oppressors. Israel is the oppressor. Jews have taken over. What are they saying? Have they completely rewritten, revised the history of Islam and the Quran? Who are they to say all of that when Allah has said we are a continuation, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and we cannot forget that. We say our prayers, and if we say our prayers, we are people of Abraham. We cannot ask to kill them. That conflict has to remain a land conflict like India and Pakistan. It's not about religion. Kashmir is not about religion. It is about a land conflict. And God damn it, you sit down and you work it out. We have so much in common with Hindus. Some generation of mine, maybe 600 years ago, was Hindu. And we converted, and that's okay. That happens. But we cannot kill each other. We cannot hate. That is against every tenet of Islam. And Jews, I believe, are Ahle Kitab. And I have the utmost respect for people of Abraham. If I'm a Muslim, I need to do that.
Well, because it's part of the community, it's part of the families, it's part of your foundation of your belief. Where did you get this level of resilience? I mean, I feel like I could talk to you for hours because you are a keynote speaker for a reason. But where did you get this resilience from? Like, what was that defining moment in your life that allowed you to be so resilient when not everything, so much is fighting against you, but you continue going towards the path of God and Muhammad and continue going towards that?
Obviously, I come from a family where my grandmother and my father have written books on Islam. They were the founding fathers of Pakistan. As a Muslim woman, my grandmother was that. So I saw her lead, and I saw my father lead. And he went to, he never stopped me from meeting Jews or Christians. He encouraged me to go to the churches and and not the synagogues, because in Pakistan there were no synagogues, but Hindu temples and Sikh gurdwaras. In England, I had Jewish friends, I had Israeli friends, and my father would just say, okay, let her be friends with them. He knew in his heart they were the leaders, the enlightened leaders of Islam and of Muslims. And my resilience comes when I look at them. I'll tell you, during COVID, I had the most, everybody thought that they're going to die. And for me also, I thought, oh my God, what have I done in this world? My mother's gone, my father's gone, my entire family's, passing away, the elder generation. And I was like, who am I going to look to? Who am I going to look towards? Who am I going to ask for guidance? So in my dream, and I'm sharing this for the first time, I wrote it in my Sufi poems book, but in my dreams, I saw all my grandparents and my father and my mother, and they said, look towards God and you'll get your strength. And I'm getting chills, but that was a moment I woke up and I had tears in my eyes, and I said, why am I looking anywhere else? I have to look to God. And so I wrote the poetry that just came to me, and it has a lot of interfaith poems, about the Jews and the Christians and other people of all beliefs, and how Allah welcomes, everyone. Allah loves everyone He has and everything He has created, and we are nobody to hate it. And I wrote that, and after that, I said that was a message from God. And if you read some of my stories, when I went to Israel, that time that I told you I went to defy all of these and then the things I'd heard about Israel. I was in Masjid al-Aqsa. I was on the Temple Mount, and I was sitting there and I was touching the Temple Mount, and my friend who's Catholic called me on FaceTime and said, I want to see it. I want to see it. I want to see where Maryam was. And I said, oh, and I stopped praying. And I was like, right after that, my Jewish friend who was standing outside, on the Jewish side of the wall, she called me and she said, can you show me the Temple Mount? And I just I showed them on FaceTime. And I sat down, and again, I had that moment that I'm crying and saying, the place that was meant for us to unite has now become a place that divides us. And if I have any life left in me, I want to change that. I want to bring us together to build Jerusalem into a place that unites, not a place that divides. Because I know that Hazrat Umar, one of the caliphs, when he conquered Jerusalem, one of the things he said was bring the Jewish people back. And he refused to pray in the church because he said, if I pray in the church, they're going to follow and they'll want to pray in the church. The church is also sacred. The synagogue is sacred. The temple is sacred. All of these are sacred places. We all go to the same creator, and yet we are fighting each other. We're hating each other. And that was the time that I don't know how I got the strength, because I feel like my parents were gone and all the legacies were going. I wanted to leave a legacy for my granddaughter, to tell her your grandmother was as strong as her grandmother.
And
And
you were
she,
the and you're the grandmother that changed. I mean, I feel like if we can change the Jerusalem capital and can be a place for peace instead of a place for violence, that is the ultimate legacy to leave. I mean,
yes,
that's not just building Pakistan. That's uniting humanity.
yes.
A technical question for you: what do you speak to the 2 million Muslim Israelis that are living peacefully in Israel, and how do you speak to the moderate Arabs that are normalizing ties with Israel and the Jewish people? Like, does the world not see that a lot of these countries and these types of people are happy and are very similar to you?
Yes, and you see that was happening. A lot of the, UAE, a lot of Muslims are coming in contact with the Israelis and seeing, oh my God, kosher, we can have kosher, and they're kosher restaurants. They are setting a good role model for the rest of the Muslim world to follow. And they had invited me to come and see the Abraham Accords. My organization was the only organization that endorsed it, and President Trump at that time had invited us to attend it. And I was getting a lot of backlash. Don't go, don't go. And I said, you know what? We have to support that. That is peace. That is Islam. And I was so happy that the Arabs are doing that, investing in Islam and humanity, bringing us together. That was changing the majority of the Muslim world. And that was the fear of people like Iran, the Iranian regime, people like Hezbollah and Hamas and TTP and all these extremist organizations that are their fuel is hatred. And they were thinking, oh my God, the Muslims are going to recognize Israel, and the bone of contention that we always use is going to be gone. So where are they going to get their money and the hate, and how will they keep the industry of hate and violence alive? That was the biggest thing that was happening to our world, a Muslim world and Jewish world. And they didn't want that to happen. People in Pakistan, they called me and they cut a Hanukkah cake. They celebrated Hanukkah. After I came back from Israel, they were saying, yes, these are people of the book, Bangladeshis going to Israel, and seeing the truth, seeing that the 2 million Arab, Muslims, and Christians that are living in Israel enjoy equal rights. I can tell you that I met many of them. And sometimes, when the Jews are not there, I would talk to them and I would say, how are you doing? You're so lucky to be living on Mount Zion, and you can say whatever you want. And they said, yes, but one day this will be ours. So I said, what do you mean? And they said the same thing. And I told them, I said, you should be very lucky that you're living in a great country. This is like the best place to be on the day of judgment. God will open it up.
Yeah,
God
you're
is
very
right there.
close.
We believe
You're
all
an
of
easy
that.
commute.
And that's what I would hear from them. But I do believe that now that they have seen the real face of Hamas and Hezbollah and the Iranian regime and Palestinian Authority, all of them don't care about the Palestinians, that they will say, like one of Atidna was a non-profit that we worked with. She was a Muslim woman, Palestinian like me. She said, Halas, what happened in the past happened. Today I live and make peace for my grandchildren. And she had built this organization like Muslim Women in America, AMWEC, in Israel. And she was working with the Israelis. And unfortunately, she died very young. But that's what happens to peacemakers. And we've seen that in the Middle East. Whoever makes peace, they want to kill them. But I do believe that our
She was
minds.
Sorry, she was murdered? She was murdered, your friend?
I don't know. I can't say. My first instinct was, but she has built a whole lot of Arab, Christian, and Muslim Palestinians living in Israel, who are now very patriotic, and we want them to join the Israeli army. We want them to protect the country, the land they live on. That is Islam. That
Yep.
country has given you more rights than your own people. Look at Gaza. You can't be. Look at Egypt, women's rights in Egypt, women and human rights in Yemen and Somalia. FGM. Women don't even have the right to enjoy their life that God has given. Their body parts are cut in Somalia. What is that?
It's horrible.
It's
But
against every teaching of Islam, and I had not heard of it until I came here in America.
what would be, if you could accomplish one thing as your legacy, what would be the legacy that you accomplish?
Saudi Arabia recognizing Israel. I see that as the key to fighting extremism, because we see the Muslim world is largely Sunni. 90% of the Muslims are Sunni. And we believe that that's the holiest place. And if the custodian of the holy mosque, if Saudi Arabia sends out one decree coming from MBS saying any imam or any Muslim who spews or promotes violence against any other human being, especially Ahle Kitab, you will not be allowed to do your Umrah or your Hajj. You cannot do the pilgrimage. I can tell you there won't be anti Semitism or hate for Christians or anybody else spewed out
It'll
from the
end.
pulpits, from the
It'll
pulpits
be-
of Pakistani mosques, of Bangladeshi, and all the other countries, Indonesia,
Wow.
Malaysia. The girls can't get married until they do the pilgrimage. So all MBS has to do, and I request him always, send out a decree that anyone who spews hatred will not be allowed to do their Hajj or Umrah, because that is what Allah wants. Allah wants a
Wow.
leader like MBS, and I hope that he is our Martin Luther.
I think he is. I think I've been watching him for a long time. I think he is. And I think he needs people and support and colleagues like you, and you've become that. Anila, how can people find you? How can people get connected with you? How can people get in touch with you and be involved and to donate
But
and
in
to
a
just be
peaceful
part of
way.
your life?
In a
Yes.
peaceful
So
way.
please support us. We want to hire many more Muslims. There are many Muslims. I have to tell you, our movement is now growing. There are imams.
How many people do you have? How many people are in your movement?
So October 7th, we had 10 people. Today we have 21 Muslim women speakers, and 5 of us have left our lives and come to advocate together. And so for me, it's like, yes, I've lost a lot of my family members, I've lost my friends, but I know that there is the Creator is watching us. All we want to do is share love, build love and peace, and bring us together and say the truth. I say we are succeeding because we are speaking the truth. Nobody can, say Anila's lying. Everything is witnessed by these eyes. I went to the kibbutz. I saw what Hamas did. I spoke to them. And I came back and I said, now tell me. No, they did not deserve it. That's what you're saying. The Israelis deserved it. No, they did not deserve it. No one deserves that. And now I say it because it's the truth. So I ask you to number one, everyone pray for me and my sisters and all the people that are supporting us, and everybody else to start supporting us because we are on the path for peace. And then also give to our organization, AMWEC. And you can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook has blocked me, and TikTok has banned me, although they have banned me from advertising, but they've banned me till 2049. Why? Because I was posting from Israel. So I said, that's okay, as long as I'm posting and I'm gaining a lot of followers on TikTok. So follow me on TikTok, follow me on LinkedIn, follow me on Twitter, and pray that Facebook sees the light of the day and releases all our accounts. They have listened to the extremists and blocked our accounts, Instagram and Facebook. So we are fighting right now, but we should be on. I have faith.
I have faith too. Anila, thank you so much for what you're doing. Thank you for honestly being a voice for truth and being a voice for peace, because that's all I've heard from you is peace, love, and the same values that my dad and I talk about all the time. Just do the right thing, be a good person. When you do that, give charity, help people, create communities, create unity, and that's really what you've been doing. So Anila, we really appreciate what you're doing. We really care about you. We really just show you that we've noticed, and our listeners are going to notice, and more people in your mission and life mission hopefully will get Mohammed bin Salman, did I pronounce it correctly, to make this decree, and he's got to call it the Anila decree, because that would be really cool.
Inshallah.
Inshallah is right. But we really appreciate everything you're doing. So thank you so much for coming on. Thank you, everybody, for our listeners. This was really an incredible episode, and I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you stay connected to Anila and watch her growth. Thank you, everyone.